all. Welcome to this session. In this session, I'm going to answer one of the Selenium interview questions. That is, explain contains function in XPath expressions. Let me answer. In XPath expressions, there are several functions. In that, one of the function is contains function. So what is the use or purpose of using this contains function in XPath expressions? Using this contains function, we can locate an element by providing the partial attribute value. Okay, you can take any attribute, ID attribute or name attribute or class attribute or any value attribute or any other attribute, and you can provide some partial value of that attribute. You don't have to provide the entire value of the attribute, only the partial portion. It can be in the beginning of the attribute value, it can be in the middle of the attribute value. This text can be at the end of the attribute value. So such kind of partial attribute value text you can provide and locate the element. Why this is required? Why we have to provide partial attribute value? If some portion of the attribute value is kind of changing, dynamic, okay, it's not constant, so then we cannot locate the element, right? In that case, we can provide the partial attribute value. That portion of the attribute value is kind of constant. That constant text of the attribute value can be in the beginning or in the middle or at the end. In such cases, we can use contains. Okay. In the similar way, we can also use contains, okay, function in XPath expressions to locate the elements using the partial text that is there between the starting and ending tags of that element. Okay. So there may be some situations where the text between the tags of the element may not be entirely constant. Some portion may be dynamic. In that case, using only the partial text that can be in the beginning of the text or in the middle of the text or at the end of the text in between the HTML tags of the element. If you want to locate, then we can use contains function here also. Contains, here we have used text function, and we are providing some partial text that is constant, that may be in the middle of the text or in the beginning of the text or at the end of the text, and the text need to be there in between the starting and ending tags of the element. Okay, so let me practically demonstrate this for you so that it will be more understandable. So for that, I'll open an application and take you to a sample application, say omai.blogspot.com. And here, I would like to locate an element. For example, I would like to locate this particular thing. Okay. So inspect this practice automation here element. And as you can see, it has an ID. It has an ID. So, or it has some text between the tags, whatever you can take. Let's say the text between the tags for now, let's assume. So practice automation, here is the text. Copy this particular text and say Control F, /P, the square bracket. If you have to provide the entire text, you have to provide direct text function is equal to like this, and it will locate. For example, in some situations, what happens is this particular text that is there between the tags may not be, the entire text may not be constant, only using some partial text. If there is a situation where I want to locate the element, in such situations, inside the square brackets, I have to use contains function, surround everything with contains function. Inside the contains function, separate this text function and this particular text with comma, and only provide the maybe practice, only provide the, if the constant text is there in the beginning, just practice, you see, it's still locating. Or if you provide the automation, the middle text, you see, automation is there in the between, automation is there in the between, still locating. Or you can provide the end text. If you don't want to provide the entire practice automation here, then provide this text function inside the contains function as an argument and pass the partial value, this text value, then you can locate. Okay, not only that, with the help of ID also we can do that. So how means, here in place of the text function, use @ID, and here if you want to give the entire ID, it will locate still, but there may be some situations where this ID attribute may not be constant entirely. Some portion of the ID attribute may be constant. So maybe in some situations, the starting text may be constant. For example, PA is constant, locating, right? Or in some situations, the middle one is constant. So A is locating. And in some situations, the end part is constant. So AH I can give, still it is locating. Like that, if you don't want to give the entire attribute value or entire text that is there between the tags of the element to locate the element, Then we have to use this contains function. Inside the contains function, either you provide the attribute and its value, or the text function and the text between the tags in a partial way. So hope guys you got an idea how to use contains function in XPath expressions with practical demonstration. So that's all for this session. See you in the next session. Thank you. Bye bye.